Have you been thinking about the big D word? Yes. I mean, divorce. What do you do? Where do you start? Well, we have our leading attorney, Anna Blood, to walk us through it. Anna, divorce is so common in any states. What are the statistics? How many people will end up divorced?
I think it's at least 50% nowadays, and that number is climbing, sadly. So, and I'm really excited to talk about family law tonight because that's sort of our main focus at my firm, and it's what I'm passionate about. So
You're passionate about divorce?
Yes.
Well, helping, because you know what? It's like if you know 50% of the population is going to get a divorce, then we need to know what some of the laws and what we need to do to prepare ourselves. So if I'm thinking about divorcing, what is the first thing besides see a good attorney, which is the first thing that I should be doing?
So just generally, to be divorced in North Carolina, you have to be separated for a year. Okay, so separated means you have to be living in separate residences. You can't be on the couch downstairs or in the garage apartment. So, which actually happens a lot.
Moving out means moving out,
Moving
right?
out, yeah. Because people will actually come to me and say, well, we've been living in the same house. We know we need to be separated for a year, but he's sleeping in the other room. And I'm like, that doesn't start the clock. So you have to actually move out. So that's the first step. And
So let's talk, like, that is just, I'm sure you have lots of women and men come to your office. And they're like, oh, I think I want a divorce. I think I'm miserable. I think I want a divorce. So do you tell them, I mean, this is a counselor too, because you're not only an attorney, you're a counselor. Do you say, if you want a divorce, then one of you has to move out? Is that like a difficult situation or a conversation?
It is. So the first time we do initial consultation and we sit and we just kind of talk. It's sort of like I guess you could call it like a counseling session. They kind of tell me I'm like, what's going on? And they'll tell me, and then I, tell them the legal aspects of everything and kind of what they need to do. But I always ask clients at the end, I'm like, are you ready to do this? Because this is a big step, and ultimately you need to know in your heart if you're ready. Because I have a lot of people that I would say at least maybe half of the people that come just to do a consult, they're not ready yet. They just want information, because it's a hard decision. And we see, we say we're judgment free because we hear you can't make this stuff up.
That's a different show, right?
It is. So and
that's a karaoke night at your mom's.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Exactly. So it's it's emotional for people, and you feel that, and you get attached to your clients because of that. So it's, but yeah, every case is a little different, but the law is the law. And
so you have to take the emotion out of it, because the law is the law. And, isn't North Carolina, 50-50 unless there's an affair, or what are the other things, battered? I'm not even sure. What are the other?
So generally
modalities?
speaking, there's so many moving parts in the divorce. So there's an absolute divorce, which is basically just the parties have been separated for a year and they want to be divorced. Nobody wants alimony. They've already divided up all their assets, which is what you're talking about, equitable distribution. There's no minor children that they need to work out custody or child support. So that's just absolute divorce. When you've been separated for a year, you can file, and it's clean. Okay?
Is that pretty rare?
We get those quite a lot, but those are usually where people have not been married very long, or there's no kids, and it's just been like, hey, this was a mistake.
Right.
So, but the more long-term marriages, you've got all the, balls in the air pretty much. The custody, child support, equitable distribution, and what you're talking about is marital misconduct. So that would be having an affair. It could be other things like spending marital funds, abusing drugs and alcohol, or using those to excess, being verbally abusive. I mean, anything that, causes your partner to be living under, we call it unbearable conditions pretty much, or intolerable.
So let me ask a question on that. So those are the different things that, are in a separate area. So you want a divorce from your wife or your husband, and one of these things are happening, but you both have jobs, and you're both working. Isn't it just distributing the funding as to how the judge rules, or is there a science in North Carolina?
So equitable distribution, that's your marital estate, which is your assets and your debts. North Carolina equals equitable, so 50-50 is the law. You can vary from that, and there's several factors that you consider, like the age of the parties. Like if you had a spouse that's been out of work for 20 years, that could be a consideration of the court. But and then there's alimony, which is spousal support. So that's kind of what we were talking about, the marital misconduct. That's where it can be considered. So if you're the financially dependent spouse and you've got one, so to get alimony, you have to be financially dependent and you have to have someone that's making more money, pretty much, so supporting spouse. And then if someone was to have an affair or something like that, that could cause the spouse that was dependent to get more money or vice versa.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It absolutely makes sense. And then I think the sad part of it, and this is the part that you love to help people with, is there, like in marriages where there is a divorce, where there's children. That's the part you said you get emotional because you have 2 small children of your own. And, sometimes they're used as pawns. And so that's the part where, when someone's entertaining the idea of a divorce, it's hard for them because it is an emotional moment, and there are a few easy divorces, but most of the time there's resentment from one or the other, and the kids sometimes can be the pawns, right?
And a lot of times I'll refer clients to a child psychologist or family therapist if they want those options as well, just to kind of help out with things, because that transition can be hard. And anything to do with custody, the legal standard is what's in the best interest of the child. So that can be construed in any number of ways, and every case is a little different, so it just kind of depends on what's been going on. But generally speaking, that's the legal standard. So
divorce is very always emotional, and because you go into the marriage thinking it's going to last, and like you said, 50% aren't. What are the 3 important things if you're going to think about getting divorced before you see your attorney? What are the 3 things you should have in mind?
Well, I think just thinking long and hard about where do you see yourself in 5 years? What do you really want your future to be like? Because ultimately you're going to have to financially support yourself or contribute some of your funds to support your other spouse while you're separated. You're essentially taking 2 households and splitting them in half, and you have to continue to run those with the children or whatever.
With or without, there's
exactly.
still 2 households,
So,
right?
Maybe you have to sell a house, so there's a lot of things to consider. So I think financially having your ducks in a row and making sure that, can you take care of yourself, and can you afford to possibly have to pay for someone else too?
Right.
So, and then just, are you, I think emotionally ready for it too is a big factor. So I guess those would be, and then a third one, gosh, that's hard to, I guess just finding a good attorney that'll fit right for you. I mean, it's such a personal connection that you have, so finding that right person that's going to represent your interests. So,
and I think that's so important that you say that, because I, probably 50% of my friends are divorced, and it really was getting an attorney that they felt represented them well. It's almost like when you go to therapy, you have a therapist for your husband, you have a therapist for your children, you have a therapist for yourself, and so they all take the interest of that person, at heart, to what's the most important to them. Same with an attorney. You want an attorney that you feel comfortable with, that's directing you in the areas that you need directed in. And also, like you said, I love that you said you get emotionally connected to your clients, because you want your attorney to care about you and be emotionally connected.
Exactly.
Well, I just love you. I know you've been doing some campaigning, and I know that you've been out there. I mean, you are just going to be governor one day, Anna Blood. I just know that you are, and I'm so excited to say I knew you when you were just a little girl, and you and my daughter did hay rides together, and look, you're a big corporate attorney now. Well, not a corporate, but a big deal attorney. So excited to have you on the show, and we know that you're going to be a regular talking about all the legal issues out there. And we want to hear from you, our viewers. Anna was so amazing. We loved her stopping by the set tonight, but we want to hear what you want answers to. I love the viewer questions that you always send in, and we want to get your questions answered. So don't forget to send those questions in, and your question might be answered. And don't forget to like us on Facebook, as well as the Deborah Kennedy Show on YouTube.